So you want to be the very best like no one ever was? Well, unless you consume a plethora of video games, collect and play the trading card game, obsessively watch the TV shows, and fill your bedroom with plushies, you better kiss that dream goodbye. Well, that was the case until a small mobile development company brought the world to its knees in 2016. That developer's name was Niantic. The plague they wrought upon this earth was Pokemon Go. Let's discuss. First things first, I know quite a few of you are probably going to instantly jump in and go, but Ed, of course I remember Pokemon Go. It's still a thing. Think about this video as more of a retrospective of the game over the years since its release. Anyway, before we discuss Pokemon Go as a game, it's important that we discuss where the idea came from. The concept for the game came about in 2014 from the minds of Satoru Iwata of Nintendo and Tsunekazu Ishihara of the Pokemon Company. Combining forces with Google, they devised a massive April Fool's game called the Google Maps Pokemon Challenge. The point of the game was to discover 150 Pokemon scattered around the globe in areas that hold some significance to the Pokemon, like water Pokemon being by water or rock Pokemon being by rocks. These were bad examples. At the time, Ishihara was a big fan of game developer Niantic's current release, Ingress, one of the first augmented reality games in a genre now known as trans-reality. The game had you interact with portals in real-life locations via GPS, and you use these portals as some form of sci-fi storytelling. Ishihara approached Niantic about developing a game similar to Ingress, but involving Pokemon. Interestingly, the man who directed the Pokemon Google Maps Challenge, Tatsuo Nomura, that's Tatsuo Nomura, not Tetsuya Nomura of Square Enix fame, joined Niantic in 2015 and was put in charge of directing the game. With assistance in design and soundtrack by Pokemon veteran Junichi Matsuda, and also with Google veteran Dennis Huang? Is that how you say it? The game's development trundled along and was finally announced in May 2016 as Pokemon Go. When the news first dropped of this game, I basically instantly bust my spuds. Finally, instead of us having to go into the Pokemon world to experience the adventure, Pokemon were coming to us and were becoming part of our world, and that was awesome. The game had an amazing trailer with over-glamorized versions of what the game might sort of look like. Looking back on it now, this is sort of hilarious when you think about the reality of what playing this game is really like. The world was ready to seize the chance to become a real-life Pokemon master, but none of us expected what would happen next. So how do I put this? People went nuts. Entire cities were brought to a standstill by nerds. Herds of nerds. Nerd herds. There's amazing footage of the first days of the game's release where entire parks are filled with hordes of people staring at their phone and moving like blood-frenzied zombies towards a newly spawned Vaporeon or whatever was new and exclusive to find at the time. The game was instantly super addictive. Walk around, find Pokemon, find discs to spin in areas of importance and parks to get more balls to catch more Pokemon. It was perfect. I would go on long walks with my brother or my friends just to go out and catch Pokemon. It was a genuinely amazing time to be out and about. Going to any significant location in London would reveal loads of people huddled in groups, staring at their phones, all trying to tick the same digital stamp collection boxes as the rest of us. In one of our old videos on GameHog back when Pokemon Go first released, we actually went out into London into some of the parks. We had so many amazing encounters with other people playing the game. We'd ask what team they were on, we'd judge them horrifically for their answer, we'd exchange Pokemon locations, and we'd go about our day. It's one of the only times in my life where I've seen a game unify so many people in a real world aspect, and I'll probably remember those experiences for the rest of my life. Communities were started, news stations covered its popularity, the world had been well and truly taken over, and our new leader's name was Pokemon Go. However, only a couple of weeks into the game being out, interest began to dwindle, and things weren't looking good. Despite being a storming success, the game was far from perfect. Some Pokemon were considered restrictively hard to find, and only including 150 Pokemon disappointed a lot of fans, although this is an understandable limitation. Pokemon Go also suffered from a lack of core Pokemon mechanics that left a sour taste in some people's mouths, and also left a gaping hole in the longevity of the game. In the traditional games, there's more to it than just catching Pokemon, which I know is the opposite of what the catchy slogan has been telling you for all these years. Pokemon games involve battles between Pokemon, or at the very least, trading. trading. At the start of Pokemon Go's life, these features weren't actually in the game. You could leave Pokemon in gyms and battle against enemy Pokemon in a gym that you walked past, but that was controlled by a computer and felt oddly impersonal. Lack of trading and challenging spawns made collecting all 150 Pokemon a much harder task to achieve, thereby flushing out the game's lifespan, which bothered quite a few people. In fact, even things like tracking Pokemon was hard at the beginning of the game, which really began to hinder people's progress. All the dissonance between what fans wanted and what was provided led to a lot of players giving up on the game soon after the initial frenzy had died down. The player base dropped by over half within a couple of months of launch, and people began to sarkily ask the question, "Oh, you're not still playing Pokemon Go, are you? Or is that still a thing?" Yes, they had lost it. The lightning in a bottle had been shattered, and it seemed all hope had vanished for any long-term Pokemon Go plans. But it wasn't the end yet. Not by a long shot. Despite the casual player base plummeting to an all-time low, hardcore players of the game were still interested in the new developments. Beyond basic gym battles, group raid battles became a thing, teaming up with other players in order to take down very strong rare Pokemon together and be presented with an opportunity to catch that Pokemon. This added a new level of depth to leveling up your Pokemon, and also brought a social element that had been severely missing ever since the initial summer release. As well as this, more and more Pokemon were added to the game, and at time of recording are up to Generation 4, undoubtedly with more Pokemon on the horizon. The introduction of Generation 2 to Pokemon Go was actually what brought me back to the game. My nostalgia actually lies with the second generation because Pokemon Gold was my first Pokemon game. As a result, I'm really happy that I can finally walk around with my Feraligatr, my Typhlosion, my Meganium, all in my pocket. Aside from raids and new Pokemon, other social mechanics like adding friends, sending gifts, trading Pokemon, and more recently PvP battling have all been introduced, all of which have been very well received by the community, even if they may still have their bugs. The game was finally building to the vision that everybody had when they first saw that announcement trailer, a complete Pokemon experience that you can take with you wherever you go. In fact, this surge of features led the game to have a higher user rate in 2018 than it ever did during its initial launch surge. That's pretty cool, isn't it? That shows that Niantic are willing to make this game exactly the thing that they envisioned, even if it takes a long time. Was it bad that they released the game without some of these features? Arguably, but we became the perfect testing ground for all those features, and as a result, we've got all of those things that we wanted, so the game's better off for it. Despite its ups and downs since its launch, the game still has incredibly vibrant communities all around the world. I myself am part of several groups in South London where we come together, we meet up, we do raids, we go looking for other Pokemon. It's a really great way of meeting people with a mutual interest who can get you further in the game than you could by yourself. If you're watching this and you're looking at trying to do more raiding and things, I highly recommend looking into local Pokemon Go groups. It's a really good way of getting out there, meeting new people, and getting your Pokemon Go experience the best that it could possibly be. Pokemon Go is an amazing game. It's a fascinating example of a game that's managed to take the world by storm, die completely on its arse, and then rise again from the ashes stronger than ever. I'm sure over the coming years, Pokemon Go is going to grow massively, whether that's just from in-game events, or whether that's from other features like the ability to transfer Pokemon between Pokemon Go and the upcoming Sword and Shield games. Who knows? But hopefully Niantic will have many more surprises for us on our global quest to catch them all. Thanks very much for watching Do You Remember Pokemon Go? This was a really fun video to do because Pokemon Go is a game that I actually play quite a lot of. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and make sure you've subscribed to GameHog if you already haven't. And also go and check out our other Do You Remember episode and our Do You Remember Extra episode to do with Duel Masters. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, bye-sies.